Hello kittens and welcome to KristenKellyTV. Today I'm going to be doing a story time for you. This is about how I had a stalker friend in high school. If you want to hear the story, please continue. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and let's get into it. Alright, so first of all, this girl that I'm telling the story about, I feel bad because I know she's gonna watch this video because she's still stalking my life. But I had asked on Snapchat if you guys wanted to hear story time, and people were like, yes, yes. And I had mentioned this girl on my Snapchat a while ago, and people were like, I want to hear about the stalker girl from high school. Like, please tell me about her. Like, I want to hear. So I'm gonna tell this story, and I feel bad. I feel bad telling it even. Okay, we have to give her a fake name. Because a bunch of people that I am friends with from high school do watch my YouTube videos. I'm going to name her Sarah. So this girl, Sarah, I met her in drama class. I believe it was drama or chorus we'd met. And I was a freshman and she was, I believe, a junior. So for me being a freshman and not really knowing anyone and her being a junior, I thought, oh my god, this girl is so cool. She's so much older than I am. Let me fix this. I thought she's so much cooler than I am. She's older than me. So when she started talking to me, I was kind of like, oh my god, like this person wants to be my friend and she's so cool and she's so much older. You know, this is awesome. So I started hanging out with her a lot. I started going to her house a lot, and we did become pretty good friends. And I would have to say in the beginning, I really did value our friendship because I never had I never had a girlfriend's house who I went to so much that I considered her house kind of like a second house. Like, she had a spare bedroom, and that kind of became my second bedroom. I was there all the time. I think almost every weekend I was there. So I had my own bed, I had my own space when I was at her house, and I did like her in the beginning of our friendship. And I think that I was a little chunky when I was a freshman. I think that I was going through that awkward stage of kind of developing, so I was kind of getting boobs, but also kind of getting fat on my everywhere, my hips and so I was very awkward, and I would look at the ground a lot when I would talk to people and all this stuff. So I had gotten I don't even know exactly what really happened that really started making me question. I'll just tell you some weird things that would happen when I was at her house. So whenever I was at her house, we would always walk everywhere. We would walk to go everywhere, which was kind of weird because she was a junior and she did have her license and she did have a car, but she wanted to always go walking everywhere. So we walked everywhere. We'd always walk to this one place and we'd always get chicken fingers and milk. And I remember one time I tried to order something that was not chicken fingers and milk, and she kind of was like, what are you doing? We always get chicken fingers and milk. And I didn't really even like their chicken fingers or milk, and they were greasy and gross, and I was trying to lose weight because I was really a little chunky, and it was almost like she wanted me to be chunky. It was because I was prettier than her, but I was a little chunky, and I had braces, and I had I was really awkward, and I think she kind of liked that because it was almost like she could control me and all this stuff. So she would do things like that, oh, why, and then I'd be oh, and then I remember one time we went on this walk and I got an ice cream, and then on the way back I got another ice cream, and she was kind of oh my god, are you seriously getting another ice cream or something like that, and I was what? She's oh, nothing, I didn't say anything, but I clearly heard her, but she was oh, nothing, never mind. So she would kind of and this was I was young, I was 13 when I was a freshman, so I was young, and this was the first time I really kind of experienced a frenemy, it was almost we were friends, but were we really friends? And then she would say stuff to me, she would be I would be chewing gum, and she'd be stop chewing gum, you sound like a horse. And I was okay, what was that about? And she'd be my sister one time was chewing gum, and somebody said to her, you sound like a horse. and my sister cried. You should be crying. And I was like, what? Like, it was just weird things. Like, she would say very bizarre things. And then I got a boyfriend when I was a sophomore in high school. So my boyfriend took up a lot of my time, and I remember one time I was saying goodbye to him, and I was like, love you, and he's like, love you. And she heard that, and she like brought me into my dorm room, and she was like, you're saying I love you to him, like you don't love him. And I'm like, I love him. And she's like, you don't know what love is, and like trying to tell me that I don't know what love is. And I'm like, dude, like, why are you so like weird? You know, it was strange. It was like she had like a weird obsession with my life, you know what I mean? I'm not showing you guys boobs, am I? She had like a weird obsession with my life. Like, you know, like, why do you care if I love my boyfriend, or I have a boyfriend, or I say I love you? And she's like, you're just really young, and I don't want you to like have sex and regret it and all this stuff. And she kept like telling me about how like I shouldn't have sex, and I shouldn't do this, and I shouldn't do that, and I shouldn't be like this, and I shouldn't be like that. And I just felt like she was very controlling. And when that happened, when she kind of like, it was like an intervention. It was literally like like a love intervention. Like, she could not believe that I said I love you to my boyfriend, and felt like she had to intervene. Like, this was her time. Like, she needed to be a good friend. And I was like, yeah, I do love him. And then she'd be like, well, what are we doing Friday? Or what movie are we going to watch? Because we'd always like rent movies like Blockbuster. We'd walk to go Blockbuster, get the movies, walk to go get chicken fingers and milk, walk back to her house. And she's like, well, what are we watching Friday? And I'm like, I'm not coming to your house on Friday. I'm going on a date. And she was like, you're going on a date? What is wrong with you? Like, you don't care about my friendship? I'm like, I do, but I want to go on a date with my boyfriend. Like, what is your deal? You know, it was like, she just had such like a weird obsession with me. And then one night she was sleeping over my house. So my parents' house, there wasn't a guest bedroom for her. My parents have like a gym, which could have been a guest bedroom, but they like made it into a gym. So my parents don't have a guest bedroom. So I'm sleeping, she's sleeping in the same bed with me, which was like totally normal. I had so many girlfriends in high school stay over, and I woke up to her staring at me. Her eyes were and she had these huge crazy eyes, and her eyes were completely opened, and she's just staring down at me. So I'm sleeping, I kind of look up, and she's staring down at me. Freaked me the fuck out. So I was like startled, and she kind of got startled. She's like, I just got up to get some water. And it was so creepy. It was so creepy. And then I went to school, and I told my boyfriend, and he was like, dude, she is creepy. And it just was like weird stuff. It was just like a lot of like she was staring at me when I was sleeping like a crazed lover. It was so bizarre. And then we were in drama, or not drama, we were in chorus, and we'd gotten sweatshirts. And by this time I was a sophomore, and I actually lost a lot of weight between freshman and sophomore year. Kind of like the summertime, I think I lost a lot of weight. And it wasn't even really like, I didn't consciously say like, I'm gonna lose weight. Like, I was like trying not to eat as like fatty foods and stuff, but I wasn't consciously like, I'm gonna lose weight. It was more so my body just started developing, like my fat started going to like my butt and my boobs, my waist started getting thinner. Like, I started becoming more of like a woman. So I feel like I was really skinny until I was in the 8th grade, and then when I was a freshman in high school, I kind of got like a little chunky, not like a lot, but it was like a little baby fat, I guess you could say. Like, even like my face was like round. And then when I became a sophomore, I really started like developing into like a woman, like getting like a womanly body. And I remember we were in class, and the teacher was like, okay, what size does everyone need? And he like looked at me, and he goes, okay, Kristen, extra small. And then he looked at her, and he said, Sarah, small. And she flipped out because I got a small. Because I got an extra small and she got a small, because she was like, I'm smaller than her. No. Like I need an extra small too. Like, made this huge deal, kind of crazy. And then because I had like made a comment, we went shopping one time, because whenever we'd go shopping and she would try on clothes, when I was a freshman and I was a little chunkier, I would always say like, wow, Sarah, you look so good. Like, your body looks so great. And she would always be like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then as soon as I became a sophomore and my body really started developing, I remember we were like where were we? We were at a clothing store. I don't even know what it was. And I was trying, I think it was Express, and I was like trying on some pants, and she had like picked me out a size 6 or something, and I was like, no, I need a size 2. And she was like, you need a size 2? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, but you've always been a size 6. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a size 2 now. Hormones. I don't know. And she was like, okay. And like went and got me a size 6 still. And I was like, could you grab me a size 2? So she goes and gets me the 2. And then she's like, outside the dressing room. And she's like, well, I don't think you're going to be able to fit into that. And I was getting you the 6 because I don't want you to feel bad about your body. And then I come out in the size 2. And I'm like, no, they're even like a little bit too big on me. And she was like, well, you know, losing too much weight is a bad thing. It's almost like somebody with cancer or somebody who's sick. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have cancer and I'm not sick. I just like developed, I guess. And she was like trying to make me feel bad about looking better. And then I got my braces off, and I remember I took like a before picture, like before getting my braces off, and an after picture, and she was like, oh my god, I love this picture, or like the before picture of me with the braces on. She's like, I love this picture. Can I keep this picture? You look so good in this picture. Like, and it was literally this horrible shot of me just looking like, and she wanted it. She's like, oh my god, like please let me keep this picture. And I was like, okay. It was like weird. Like, why would you want a picture of your friend looking horrible, you know? So I got my braces off, and I really started, I guess, like looking banging, like looking, you know, better than her. And I started doing my makeup. I started doing my hair. And she's, this whole time, would like always kind of talk shit about my boyfriend. Like, I think that she was jealous, you know, that I would hang out with other people, or that I wasn't like hanging out with her, or I was hanging out with him. And then this one night, or this one like weekend, I guess it was like a Wednesday, and she's like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And at this point I really was like pulling away from the friendship, you know, like I really didn't want to hang out with her anymore. I was really like over her controlling craziness. And I think she felt that. So she's like, oh, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Not sure. And before I could like even say anything, I was just like, I don't know. She was like, do you want to come on my sister's boat? And I was like, wow, that sounds really fun. Because normally all I ever did with her was watch blockbuster movies and walk to go get chicken fingers and milk. So I was like, wow, like something fun. And like she was super, super Catholic. So when I would go and visit her or stay with her on weekends, like she would make me go to church. And I like really didn't like going to church. And her whole family would go. And that's why she was always like, make sure you don't have sex. Make sure you don't have sex. Like I couldn't tell her when I lost my virginity or anything because she was so like Catholic, like crazy Catholic, like don't do anything bad, like don't party, don't drink. So we never did anything fun. So she was like, oh, sorry, I'm trying not to show you guys my boobs. She was like, oh, so my sister has a house on the lake and she has a boat and we can go there and we can drink and we can do this. And I was like, what? Okay, like, oh my god, like, Sarah, you're finally sounding like a fun friend. Okay, like this sounds really fun. So I talked to my boyfriend. I was like, yeah, like her sister has a house on the lake and her sister's a few years older. She's in college and there's a boat. Like this is gonna be so much fun. And he's like, wow, that does sound like a good time. Like you guys are gonna have a great time. So I was like, yeah. And then the next day, like Thursday or whatever, she's like, can't wait for this weekend. Talked to my sister, got it all cleared, so excited. And I'm like really excited, like, yeah, this is awesome. But still in the back of my mind, I was like, it was almost like weird because we never did anything fun. So I almost felt like it was too good to be true. So then Friday rolls around and after school, she's like, oh, like, I don't know if I went, oh, no, I went home. So I had to go home first for something. But she was like, oh, like, I'll drive you, like, we'll go right after school. And I was like, no, I didn't pack a bag for the weekend, like, I have to do something. I don't know, I, like, walk dogs in the neighborhood, so I probably have to, like, walk a dog or something. So I was like, no, like, I have to, like, walk Bruno, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, I'll pick you up later. And I'm like, I'm so excited about your sister's boat. And she's like, yeah, the boat's gonna be so awesome. So, Friday night, I talked to her on the phone. So we had a phone conversation. She called me to be like, this is like before people text messaged everything. So she called me and she was like, oh, hey, like I'm gonna come get you in like 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, really excited, like so excited for the boat. Are we driving to the lake house tonight? And she's like, yes, driving there tonight. So I'm like, okay. So I get in the car, I put my bag in the back seat, and Sorry, my ice maker is making ice. So I put my bag in the back seat, and I'm like, buckle up, and I look at her. She's kind of got like a weird like face on or something. Like she was kind of like, she always like had a weird like energy and a weird face about her. And she's like, and I was like, hey, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, everything's great. Everything's perfect. So I'm like, okay. So we're in the car, and the whole time we're in the car, I'm talking about this lake house. I'm like, oh, so like, you know, where exactly is this lake house? Does she have like a lot of cute friends there? Or like, we gotta be like, what? I'm so excited. Like, is she gonna buy us alcohol? I brought cash. Like, I'm like really excited for this like exciting, fun weekend. And she's like, just kind of like, yeah. And then I realized we're driving back to where she lives. And I'm like, hey, did you like forget your bags at your house or something? Like, are we going back to get your bags? And she was like, yeah, we're going back to get my bags. And I kind of felt like I was being kidnapped. Like, it was just very weird. Like, it was like, why wouldn't you just put your bags in the car and come get me? Because it was kind of like her house, my house, where we're going. So it's like, why would we go from your house to my house, back to your house? Why would we like double back like that? So it was weird because I felt like every question I was asking, she was just like agreeing with me. Like, yes, totally. She will buy us alcohol with that money you brought. Like, she was just weird. It was weird. It was a very weird energy. So we get to her house. We go inside, and her parents are there. And she's like, oh, yeah, just come upstairs and talk to me really quick. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, go upstairs. I'm like, what's up? And she's like, actually, my sister is not going to be at her beach house, or maybe she was supposed to be or wasn't be. I don't know. There was some reason we couldn't go. She was like, our lake house. She's like, we can't actually go to the lake house this weekend, and we can't actually use the boat this weekend, and there's not going to be anyone there this weekend, but another time we totally can go. So I was like, why would you tell me? I'm like literally wearing a bathing suit, like under my clothes. So I was like, why would you tell me we were going? I mean, if plans change, I get it, but she could have told me that on the phone before she picked me up. She could have told me that in the car. She, this whole time, was making it seem like we were going to this lake house. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, did you only come because we were going to a lake house? And I was like, no, I wanted to hang out with you, of course, because, like, what was I going to say? But I was like, why would you tell me we were going to a lake house? Why would you tell me this whole story? And she's like, well, I knew, like, yesterday that we couldn't go to that lake house anymore or use the boat, but I still wanted to hang out with you. And I was like, okay, cool. So at this point, I've literally been kidnapped. Like, I didn't even have my license yet. I couldn't drive. She just drove me from my house all the way there. And it's not like I could secretly make a phone call to go get my parents to get me. It was like, I mean, it was just weird. It was just so weird. So this was the point that I just decided I could not be friends with this girl anymore. That her lunacy had gone to another level. So I called my boyfriend the following day or the day after, and I was like, she literally brought me to her house. No lake house. Guess what we did? We walked to Blockbuster and we got chicken fingers and fries. And she told me the whole time about how having sex was bad and all this shit was bad and all these people were going to hell and all these people were sluts and all this stuff. And he was like, you have got to cut her out. And I'm like, I know. I've already decided to cut her out. So, after that happened, I just decided I wasn't cool with her anymore. And I think at one point, I was in the cafeteria and she came over and sat with me, and I was like doing homework, and I put my pen down and I was like, look, Sarah, I've really valued our friendship, but you have become very controlling. You lied to me about that whole weekend at the lake house. I feel like you're super judgmental towards everybody, and I feel like I can't even really talk to you as a friend anymore. And, like, there was other things. Like, there was, like, other crazy things that she was doing that I didn't really, like, agree with. But I'm not going to get into that. But I was just, like, all of these things were just, like, I was, like, I just don't want to be your friend anymore. We're just not cool anymore. And she was kind of, like, taken aback by it. And I was, like, but I don't, like, wish you any, like, wrong, you know, any harm or anything. I just don't want to be friends with you anymore. Like, I don't want you to call me. Like, she would call me and tell me her problems, and it would be like hours. And you know, in high school, it's like, you have so many things you have to do in one day. You have to like go to class and do your homework and do this and do that and this and that. And she would call me and take up hours of my time on these stupid, like, trivial things. And I just couldn't take like her anxiety anymore and her craziness. And it was just like not fun. And I was like, why am I wasting my time? Like, when this isn't like a fun thing, you know? So, then it was kind of sad because I was only a sophomore and she was a senior. And I realized that, like, all of her friends were really my friends. Like, she didn't really have any friends. Remember when I said I was a freshman and I thought she was so cool because she was, like, a junior? It really was because she didn't really have any friends. So everybody that I hung out with, she stopped hanging out with. It was really my friends. And I never, like, really saw it as the fact that she didn't really have any friends. So then at senior prom, so it was her senior year, and it was just, like, crazy because it was, like, me, my boyfriend, my boyfriend's friends, and it was all, like, popular people. We were at this, like, nice table, and I kind of, like, look over, and she's, like, at prom sitting with, like, just, like, the most random people, and I kind of, like, my heart felt bad for her, you know, that she really didn't have any friends. Like, I was her only friend. I was the only person that was really connecting her to other people. So I did feel bad when that happened. But then years later, I mean years and years later, after high school was done, she called me and she was saying the most insane things. Like the most I'm sorry, before that. When she was in college, I did actually see her one time and I stayed with her. Like, we kind of talked, we were like patched things up a little bit. I stayed with her this one time in college, and she was an insane person. She was like drinking shots. She literally had a shot glass next to her bed, and she was like, and this was the girl that was like so Catholic and stuff. She was taking shots, like literally taking shots, would wake up, take a shot, was just randomly taking shots, like so much. She was drinking so much alcohol. I mean, even to me now, being someone who's like a veteran drinker, at that stage in my life, I was like, she was drinking a lot. And me looking back at it, I'm like, damn, she was drinking a lot. On top of it, she was doing coke. And this was somebody who was like, don't have sex, don't drink, don't do drugs. She was doing coke, she was drinking. She also had sex with somebody the night I was there. Like the one night I was staying there, she had sex with somebody in the bed next to me. Like, it was just, not in the same bed, but like two tiny beds. It was just like weird. Like, there was just so many weird things. And I feel like she kind of tried to poison me when I went to visit her at that college, because she had like a toxic ointment literally next to her toothbrush, and I was like, hey, where's your toothpaste? And she's like, oh, sorry for like the snoring, Yuki's sleeping. I was like, hey, where's your toothpaste? And she was like, oh, it's next to my toothbrush. So I grabbed this tube that looked like toothpaste next to her toothbrush. I go into the bathroom, I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm like, I start spitting it out because it tasted like medicine. I look at the tube, and it's this like toxic like foot cream. And I was like, why would you put this next to you said that your toothpaste was next to your toothbrush. Where's your toothpaste? And she's like, oh, it's like over here in this cabinet. Sorry about that. And she was like, why would you use it without looking at the label? I was like, why would you? Like, it was just weird, bizarre, okay. Years and years later, she calls me, and she is like crazy, like just insane, telling me about how I've always been the more beautiful one and I'm so successful, and she always looks up to me even though I'm younger, and she hates herself and she hates her husband and she hates her life. And this is like out of nowhere. Literally, it's like 10 o'clock at night. I haven't heard from this girl in I don't know how long. I think she sent me a Facebook message like, hey, what's your phone number? I give her my phone number. She immediately calls me and starts telling me her entire life story. Hey guys, sorry about that. My camera died. Okay, so she calls me and starts telling me all about her entire life and about how she cheats on her husband and she's an alcoholic and she's this and she's that. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, it was just so weird. It was so bizarre because our friendship was not intact before this. And then she literally just called me to tell me all of this crazy stuff. So I was kind of like, okay, like, that's good. I don't know what to say. And then she's like, do you ever feel like you won't find as good as friends as you had in high school? And I'm like, no, I mean, I have some really good friends that I found after high school. It was just bizarre, like super bizarre. Just everything she said was deeply troubling and bizarre. But at the same time, I was like, I don't really care. Like, I don't really know you. I'm not really friends with you. Like, whatever. Then I did an appearance, and she came to my appearance with her now ex-husband. So she comes to the appearance, and first of all, I told her that I don't go on stage until 11. Let's say 10, because I don't really remember. So I said, I don't go on stage until 10 p.m. I'm not going to get there until probably like 9:45. So she shows up there at like 8 o'clock and calls me. She's like, where are you? Where are you? Like, there's posters up of you. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm not going to be there until 9:45. Like, I wasn't even done getting ready. Like, I was like having my hair and makeup done. I was like, I'm in hair and makeup right now. I'm not going to be there until 9:45 because I will not be going on stage until 10. So I was like, look, let me contact the promoter. So I contacted the promoter, and I'm like, hey, my friend from high school is there with her husband. Can you please just like give them a good time? Like, they can is there somewhere they can hang out? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, there's a back area that they can hang out in, and I can like bring them drinks, and there's some food back there. I mean, it's not like this glamorous spot, but they can hang out there if you want. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm really sorry. I told them not to be there until 9:45, and it's like 8 o'clock at this point. So she's like she keeps texting me like, oh, there's so many people here. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, I can't believe this is like down the street from where I live. Like, all this stuff. And I'm like, great. Yeah. Like, I can't talk right now. So then I get there, and by the time I get there, like, this was there was a really big like gay community in that area. So there was a lot of young gay people that wanted to meet me and see me. So when I got there, they were chanting my name. So when I get there, she hears them chanting my name, and I think she just got like really, really jealous. So I come in, and it was like very like pop star-ish. Like, I come in, I'm like, hi, hey, and all these people are chanting my name, like screaming my name. And she sees this, and then they kind of like usher me into this room that they've been in, and I'm like, oh my God, how are you? Like, I hug her, and she's wearing these jeans that were like just really ill-fitting and looked really old, and were all like, I just remember the bottom of the jeans being like really scuffed up looking, like you had like walked with, like, they were just too long and, you know, been on the ground. And she was wearing this like really unflattering, like kind of like a mom top, and her makeup and hair, she just looked like a mess. And I hate to be like that. I hate to be like, oh, she needed to look a certain way. But I'm just saying, on top of her, I feel like already feeling kind of jealous that I was like getting paid and was flown in to pretty much just be at a party. Like, just to host a party is pretty much you're just being at a party and getting paid for it. So I think she was already jealous, but then it was kind of like just how she looked was very weird. Like, she was very disheveled looking. And she saw me, like, her jeans were like getting caught on her pants, were like getting caught on her shoes kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God, hi. And I was wearing this really tight gray dress, and I had my hair all done. And this was when like colors were really big in the hair. So I had like some hair extensions with colors in them. And her husband was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And she already seemed out of it when I saw her, and her husband was like, but I couldn't really like pay attention to them. Like, I came to this event because I was paid, like my manager was involved, like I was paid to be at this event, to host this event. So I didn't like come to see her, so I couldn't really like deal with her. And at the second I saw her, it was almost like I had to deal with her. So she is like kind of falling all over the place within like the first 5 minutes of me seeing. Alright, sorry guys, my camera keeps dying. It's been like 30 minutes or 40 minutes since I last started talking, so I don't even know where the hell it ended up at. Pretty much, she came to this appearance that I was at and was a hot mess. So, like, a bunch of crazy things just kept happening. Okay, so when I got there, she like seemed really drunk. I like really couldn't like deal with her, but she didn't seem drunk. She kind of seemed like high or something. So her husband was also kind of like trying to like hold her up and all this stuff. And then, so at this point, they are like, we're gonna bring you on stage. And so when you do appearances, like sometimes it'll just be like in a bar, they'll have, but it's normally like a table that's like kind of in the middle so people can see you, or it's like, sometimes it'll be like a VIP area but people can see you. This particular place was super cool, and what they had is they would have you on stage. So they had a huge stage, so then they had a stage, they had a DJ, and then they had a like VIP table on the stage pretty much. So I actually didn't know what the setup was like before I got there. So I say hi to them and everything, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna like bring you on stage. I go out on stage with like, they announce my name, everybody, like the crowd was crazy. Like we're talking like 1,600 people or more, and they're all like screaming my name and they're going crazy, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, hey, like I go on stage, they hand me the mic, I'm like, hey everybody, like what's up, like let's get this party like popping, let's start this. So then I sit down with her and I could just like see her face, like her face was kind of like amazed, like she couldn't believe that I had this many fans. She also, but like this was like right after Bad Girls Club, so I had a lot of fans at this point, and like people were excited to meet me and take photos and stuff. So she sees this, and I could just like see her face that she's like super jealous and in awe. And then her husband was really nice, like he was super cool. I actually had this like flip cam. I don't know if you guys even know what a flip cam is. I don't even know if they make flip cams anymore. Such a piece of shit. I had this camera and then it broke after having it for like not even 5-6 months, and I think it was like $600. It was this like tiny camera. It was like a piece of shit now that like I look back on it, but at the time I was like, oh my god, this is like the best camera ever. So her husband actually filmed for me, and I just thought it was so cool, and it was just like he was nice. And then she just kept saying like bizarre things to me throughout the night. Like she kept like grabbing my like arm, and she was like, you were always the prettier one. Or she would grab my arm and be like, what else would she say? Just crazy stuff like, I knew you would always be famous. Like really like bizarre stuff. But I mean, I've never had a big head because like I always knew that it was like a bubble and it would burst. It's like, you know, it was a TV show that they have a new cast coming, so it's like I knew, you know, like I'm gonna enjoy this, it's fun, but then it's gonna be over and they'll be on to the next cast. So I never was like, oh my god, I'm this big celebrity or anything, but she was like, you're a huge celebrity now, blah blah, and I'm like, I'm really not, like it's just right now I am. And I always knew that. I was at that, like I always knew that it was like not going to last forever. It's like the gravy train's not always lasting, like this is just for right now. And I kept trying to like say that to her. I was almost like, well, you know, it's like the show is like new and people like love me now, but you know, it's like I kept trying to like downplay myself. I'm like, you know, it's like not that big of a deal. And she was like, no, like this is like blah, like I don't know. And then there was like a photographer who was in our posse, and the photographer he was like pretty good looking. He was young though. Like I think that he was not even 21. Like he could have been like 19, and he had blonde hair, and he was like in our group, and he actually was like trying to get me to like go to his hotel room later, and he was at one point was like trying to make out with me. It was like weird. The photographer was like a little weird, but the photographer had at one point said to me, isn't that your friend's like husband in our group? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, she keeps trying to like touch me, like she grabbed my dick. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, she like grabbed my dick. And her husband saw and kind of laughed. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So then at one point I tried to talk to him, and I'm like, hey, is she okay? And note that like while this is happening, I'm trying to take pictures with people. So I'm taking pictures with people. I'm like, they weren't letting guys up on stage, which was crazy because like a lot of my fans are gay men, so like they weren't letting men up on stage, which was really weird. So like they were like screaming my name, and like they were like, Kristen, and I was like, oh my god, like, and then I like went to the guy and I'm like, you let them up, like what is going on? So I'm like dealing with a bunch of stuff, and I wasn't even drinking actually at one point, because they did like bring out bunches of bottles and stuff, you know, also because they want to make it look cool because we're on stage. But I like really wasn't even drinking because I was so busy. I was like between, you know, having her there and having like the fans and trying to talk to people and then not letting people up, and it was like, you know, and people are tweeting me like that they're not letting them up, so I'm like trying to deal with a lot. And then at one point I was actually behind, I like at this, like, closer to the end of the night, my friend was so messed up that I, like, kept asking for water, but, like, nobody was giving me water. So I, like, went behind a bar and was, like, shooting, like, I was, like, doing the water gun. I was, like, getting water for her, and then I was, like, giving water to, like, other people, and then, like, the owner of the bar was like, you are so cool, because I was just, like, giving people drinks. I was like, what is going on? It was just so, like, crazy. And then, so later on, we went and got food, and it was, like, me, her husband, the owner, the promoter, and the photographer, and she's, like, legit trying to hook up with the photographer in front of her husband. And I'm, like, trying to, like, talk to her. I'm like, hey, are, like, you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. And it was just so bizarre. It was, like, there's a lot of craziness. Okay. So, say goodbye to her. Say goodbye to her husband. And then, and I've been really drunk. And I've been really crazy. And I'm sure I will be in the future. So, I'm always, like, you know, when people are drunk and crazy, I'm like, whatever. Stuff happens. You don't eat that day. You get drunk. I don't care. I, like, you know, I've been there. It was just a little weird that it was, like, happening during my appearance, and I hadn't seen her in so many years, and it was just like kind of like a tornado. It's like, I think that really her husband should have been like, when she was like getting like pretty drunk or like whatever, he should have been like, hey, let's say hi to your friend and leave, because it was kind of like, I mean, I was like working, you know, I was like getting money to do that, so it was kind of like if you were at work and your friend was super drunk. But then again, would you be working somewhere like in that situation? I don't know. But it wasn't even drunk. She seemed high or something. Okay, so moving on, like later on Facebook, I have like a private Facebook that I only have like my really close friends on. I mean, private, like 200 people. But I have 5 Facebooks. I have fan Facebooks, I have fan pages, I have Instagram, I have Twitter, Snapchat. I have all these different places you can find me, YouTube. But I have one Facebook that is like my own. There is no fans on it. It is just my friends. It is like my close friends. I don't even add people on there that I went to college with or high school with, or, you know, I've met, like, you know, doing acting jobs or anything. Like, I don't add people unless I'm truly invested in those people and I truly care about those people. So she kept adding me and adding me and adding me, and I kept denying her and denying her and denying her on my like real Facebook. So then finally I added her, and of course she starts like liking all my pictures and tagging and stuff and this and that and like writing comments on everything, and I was just like, dude, we are just like, it's just kind of stalkerish. Okay, so I like unfriended her from my real Facebook, and then I'm at Disneyland. And she calls me, and I don't even know how the girl has my number at this point, because she kept asking for my number and I wasn't giving it to her. I probably had 20 messages from her being like, hey, what's your number? What's your number? What's your number? What's your number? So finally, I don't know how she got my number, but she got my number because I didn't give it to her. She calls me. I'm at Disneyland, and she's like, hey, can I talk to you? It's like really important. So I think something like crazy happened, like her parents died or something. I don't know. So I like leave this huge line that I've been waiting in for like 2 hours. I go to talk to her, and she asks me, how do you apply liquid eyeliner? How do you apply liquid eyeliner was her question. Was her world-shattering question. So I said, download the YouTube app and Google it. Or go on YouTube and look it up. Like, that's how you find out how to put eyeliner on. Why would you think that I'd be able to instruct you on how to put eyeliner on? It was just, dude, this girl is bad news. Oh my god. Like one time when I went to a wedding, I think I was a freshman in high school, she kept calling me when I was at the wedding, and I didn't know how to put my phone on silent because I had just gotten it. I was like 13. And as they were saying their vows, my phone kept going off. My first cousin's wedding. It was horrible. And everybody at like the reception kept talking to me about it, but I was like, no, everything's fine. I kept like, but I was like, So yeah, that's my story. I hope you liked it. I'm sorry this was so long. Please give this video a like, leave me a comment. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.